A lot of people want to know, can you have silicon-based life? And I remember when I used to read Superman comics that there was a villain from a planet named Mr. I think it was Mikyezpidalix. His name was all syllables. So I never did know how to pronounce it. And he was supposedly a silicon-based life form. So my answer to whether or not you could have silicon-based life is, I don't know, maybe. But the thing about this chart, the take-home message of it is, silicon is busy. Silicon is in rocks. And when you make minerals, what happens is you'll get one chemical element surrounded by a few friends that are tightly bound to it. They're in a really tight relationship. Sometimes the forces are so strong it's hard to break apart that geometric polyhedron. And that polyhedron comes apart as a chunk and then makes other minerals. So silicate rocks have silicate anions, and silicon is busy having a relationship with all these oxygens. So it's less likely that you would use it for life because A, it takes more energy to bust one of those bonds up than it would take to do a carbon one, and B, because of its configuration, it's harder to do what we call covalent chemistry, which is where you can buy and sell and share electrons, and life likes to make use of that kind of chemistry. So when you're thinking about the chemistry of environments and what you need to make an environment be a habitable place, it's not just the chemistry
I think both my fiction and my nonfiction are reaching for some kind of truth. And so for me, the rhythm I feel in my chest when I'm writing is the same for both fiction and nonfiction. And I don't know why, but it's about urgency and necessity and really demanding visibility for issues that, Haitian, in my fiction, I write about other things too, but in my novel, this focusing on the issues that women in Haiti are facing. And in my nonfiction, I'm often tackling social issues.
Or people.
Oh, well, yes.
I like when you tackle people.
So do I. I do tackle people. I think that sometimes people behave in ways that demand response, and we have to say something about it, and we have to point out this behavior and say this behavior is not acceptable. And I think that words are a great way to do that because they last. You'll forget about a TV broadcast eventually, but a book in many ways is forever. And so I like being able to take these kinds of things on and bring visibility to issues and people who are moving through the world in ways that I either approve or disapprove of. Mostly I disapprove. I find it to be useful.
the hygiene hypothesis that basically states that the more you are exposed at an early age, the earliest children born by cesarean section don't have the privilege of getting colonized with normal bacteria through the birth canal. They end up having more metabolic type issues. And just to make a final point about the dangers of antimicrobials, it's not just resistance. You screw up your microbiome. The microbiome is really essential in terms of who we are. There are 10 times more bacterial cells in our bodies than human cells. And for the most part, these are very good players. They work in a beneficial way with us. We've co-evolved over literally billions of years, or at least thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And there's been epidemiologic demonstration that in the United States, those states that have the highest use of antimicrobials in children have the highest rates of obesity and subsequently diabetes. I think we have to pay a lot of attention to that.
We know that kids that are raised around animals, these kids often, especially from a young age, often have pretty robust immune systems. And I often tell, family medicine, we take care of a lot of newborns and young children, and we typically will say to them, don't be so crazy with that 7-second rule where you've dropped the food, and if I pick it up, the joke from, it's okay, it's been on the floor less than 7 seconds, I can feed it them. Wash hands, make sure you teach your kids good hand washing technique, but let's not get too over the edge on this.
Dirt's good for you.
Dirt's okay.
Dirt's Sound and touch may seem completely separate, except possibly when playing the game Operation. But it turns out that the two senses are actually quite entwined. A new study finds that people with hearing issues often also have problems with touch. Researchers compared sets of twins, some identical and some fraternal. The identical twins obviously have the same genome, and thus the same mutations. The fraternal twins have genetic differences. Other subjects in the study were congenitally deaf. To determine how acute their hearing was, the subjects reported whether they could hear various high frequencies. To evaluate touch, they were asked to differentiate different surfaces with their fingertips. The research revealed that touch sensitivity was highly heritable and connected closely with hearing ability. The better the twins could sense touch, the better they could hear, and vice versa. 1 in 5 subjects that had congenital deafness also had a poor sense of touch. The research is in the journal Public Library of Science Biology. Next, the researchers want to figure out which genes are faulty. After all, addressing the problem could kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Here's a tale of genes, smells, and pigs. Most people have 2 copies of a gene that enables them to detect a steroidal pheromone called androstenone, which is found in male mammals, particularly porkers. But most pigs in developed countries have been chemically castrated, which means much less androstenone in the meat, so no strong smell. Now Europe is considering a ban on castration. Might pork from these intact males smell bad to people with the right genes? Researchers recruited 23 volunteers who were screened for the ability to smell androstenone. Tests showed that those who were sensitive to the compound did indeed have 2 copies of the gene, and those who didn't notice it or didn't think it smelled bad mostly had 1 or no copies. The researchers then challenged the subjects with pork to which androstenone was added to match levels that would be found in meat from uncastrated males, and the sensitive subjects thought the meat smelled and tasted much worse than did the insensitive tasters. The research was published in Public Library of Science 1. The scientists say ending pig castration could thus make some pork unpalatable to people with the common genes construct, which might make consumers squeal. Now's a great time to break out that backyard telescope, because Saturday, March 3rd is the Mars opposition. It's one of the times that the Earth and Mars pass the closest to one another. The name, the Mars opposition, means that Mars and the Sun are on, well, opposite sides of us. And it happens only once every 2 years and 2 months. But if you don't have such equipment handy, you might want to head over to the online SLU Space Camera. It's usually a members-only site that allows users to look at web images broadcast from telescopes around the world and to click to snap photos. The pictures get integrated into Google Earth Sky. The site also offers free weekly space shows. But Saturday, there will be a free live streaming of the opposition hosted by astronomy experts. It'll include views of the planet from a variety of observatories, including those in Arizona and the Canary Islands. You'll be able to pick out surface features such as canyons, volcanoes, and polar caps. The online broadcast will begin on Saturday at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Head over to the online SLU Space Camera.
Many who need restorative rest the most might not be able to get it. Why? They're in a hospital.
Where's the patient? Anyone seen the patient?
Even at night, a hospital can be a noisy place, and research has shown that these noise levels have been rising for decades.
That's the machine that goes bing! And that's the most expensive machine in the whole hospital!
A new study finds that electronic noises in particular interfere with sleep. Researchers followed the sleep patterns of a dozen healthy volunteers as they spent 3 nights sleeping in a lab. Their hours of darkness were punctuated with 14 different recorded hospital sounds, played at varying volumes.
Amplify the ping machine.
Even when electronic sounds, such as alarm beeps, were played at the level of a whisper, volunteers slightly roused from sleep. The findings are in the journal Annals of Internal Medicine. When volunteers' sleep was disrupted,
More apparatus, please, nurse.
their heart rates increased. This frequently elevated heart rate could be especially bad for recovery. A little peace and quiet could make for a lot more restful nights.
If you've ever dined with a stuffy nose, you know that what you smell strongly influences what you taste. But what you see matters too. Even the color of a cup can trick your taste buds. That's according to research in the Journal of Sensory Studies. Researchers prepared store-bought hot chocolate and served it in red, orange, white, and cream-colored cups to 57 volunteers. The study subjects rated the sweetness, aroma, flavor, and overall likability of each cup of cocoa. Turns out hot chocolate in the orange cup was rated more likable and chocolatey than the others, even though each cup had the same stuff. Previous studies also suggest color matters. Increasing the yellow hue of a 7-Up can, for example, makes people think the drink tastes more lemony. Likewise, researchers say the orange cup might enhance the chocolatey brown color of the cocoa and enhance flavor. Since much more of the brain's cortex is devoted to vision than taste, what you see could matter as much as what your taste buds experience. So next time you're really savoring something, try feasting your eyes on something else and see if the taste passes the test.
The excursion for children is very much open to debate. The glimpse of something is an enormously rewarding experience. The key difference between courses is the kind of assessment.